You're listening to The Black Woman in the Corner Office, the podcast for women who lead, influence, and carry a whole lot more than what shows up in their title. I'm your host, Dr. Ebony Stone, and each week we talk leadership, power, community, and what it really takes to rise without losing yourself. If this conversation resonates, go ahead and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Hi, I'm Dr. Ebony Stone, and this is The Black Woman in the Corner Office. Hello, and welcome to The Black Woman in the Corner Office podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Ebony Stone, and as usual, I have a phenomenal guest today, and I'm excited to get into this. I'm excited to tell you guys how we met. I'm excited to tell you what she's working on. I'm excited for all of those things, but before I do that, before we get into the conversation, I want to read just a bit of her bio. So today's guest is Dr. Rehva Jones. And the reason that I emphasize doctor is because that is recent. And I know that Dr. Rehva Jones is not used to that. And I know how that feels. So we're just going to keep calling her Dr. Rehva Jones until she gets accustomed to it. So Rehva Jones is a scholar practitioner and strategic planning, implementation, and evaluation consultant whose career spans higher education, government, and the nonprofit sector. She holds a doctorate in higher education administration, an MBA, and a bachelor's degree in organizational management, and brings deep expertise in strategic planning, performance management, outcome measurement, and organizational change. Rehva works with executive and board leaders to design strategy and implementation plans, build evaluation and accountability frameworks, and align people, processes, and programs to measure results. Her work is grounded in lived experience, navigating systems where Black women are often expected to deliver excellence without the corresponding authority. And her perspective reflects both the obstacles and agency required to persist, lead, and create pathways for others. Welcome, Dr. Rehva.
Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Stone.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So all of that said in that bio, the official bio is that she a bad girl, right? She does all the things, right? And I love this concept that we'll get into a little bit later about, expecting excellence without the corresponding authority. I can't wait to get into that. But before we do that, we always start to kind of learn a little bit about you. Why don't you tell us anything that we might want to know that's not in the bio? And then tell us a little bit about what your career journey has looked like.
Sure, and thank you again for the opportunity. So my whole bag of tricks around outcomes and measurement is really due to how I came up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we were not rich by any stretch of the imagination, and at some points we had to depend on public services.
Yes.
And I remember going to one of the agencies, which can be traumatizing, and it was, with my mom. And I only remember how poorly she was treated by another Black woman.
Mm.
And so that gave me a push, because in my 6-year-old mind, it was, how is it that you come for help and you're not helped, and you're treated really badly for no reason at all other than that you needed help.
Yeah. Let me ask you, at 6 years old, you realized that you were going to get help?
Yes, I knew
Okay.
that that was the point. That was
Okay.
what my mother was trying to do. We
Okay.
didn't get any help.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Um, and how I remember that is that instead of taking the bus back home, we had to walk.
My God.
And my mom cried all the way home.
Mm, mm,
So, in my little mind, it was if government is the place that's supposed to help you, what happens when it don't, or why didn't it, right?
what?
And so my entire career, whether I realized it or not, was always about measuring for impact and outcome,
Mm,
because there's no way that people who need help should be turned away, and in the manner that they're turned away.
Let me ask you, because you said, you remember one black woman treating another black woman badly.
Mhm.
How has that impacted your work as well?
So, of course, my adult self, having worked in a few places over my career, realized that this woman was probably stuck in some kind of system where she was tied up by a bunch of rules and regulations that may be valid or may not be valid, because people have a tendency to start making things up the longer they work at a place.
Yeah.
And so it was really, for me, it became about, okay, well, what is happening in the system that the system is forcing at the transactional level for their own mission not to be met.
Mm, wow. That's
Right.
that's deep. Yeah. Their own mission is
Right.
not being met.
At the transactional level,
Right.
at the
Right.
level where it counts.
Yes. Yeah.
It's not, you're not living up to your mission. And it is your systems that prevent you from doing that.
Yes. I think I was just processing that. I think often that happens. I don't think people understand how their processes impact their mission often, or what they're trying to accomplish. They're just kind of like, government is one thing, but I'm just thinking even about small business, right? This is my goal. But your processes are counter to, like you said, at the transactional level, are counter to what you're trying to accomplish. I'm thinking of one individual in particular who is, I know their heart is right and they are trying to service the public, but they've been doing it so long they're a bit jaded. And so before the public can even get their ask out, I have seen this individual just say, "Yeah, is this your cell phone number? I'll just text you." And you're like,
Yep.
"What? You don't even know what I want." Just because the last 100 people wanted X, Y, and Z, that doesn't mean that I do. But and that is literally their process, right?
Mhm.
Which is hurting them, I believe.
Mhm.
And so when you
And
think
we can
about,
expect it. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, when you think about it at the level and in the space that you were, it impacts not only the mission in the individuals, it impacts our entire country.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And we can expect for that to get worse, right? Because
absolutely.
now that we have this AI stuff, we also have to wrestle with this thing I've been calling weaponized neutrality,
Mm,
right? So, weaponized neutrality is, think about it, when you put your resume into an AI system, what data has the AI been trained on? What data has that agent been trained on? And what are the algorithms in that black box that no one can see, no one seems to know, right? And
yeah,
so if you feed your agent biased data, AI will not catch the bias, it will exacerbate it and make it exponential. And so
yeah,
what looks like, oh, it's a neutral process, but it's a neutral process filled with biases and data that you don't know what it is, written on algorithms that are not clear. And
correct.
so where you have human people, um, not looking at resumes or discarding resumes, because the name ain't right, right? Like we know the research on that. The name
Yeah.
isn't right. Female, black female, that begins to take them out of the system.
Yep.
Now
My
you
mother
have,
has, I'm sorry. My mother
yeah,
has often asked me, hey, do you think you should just go by your initials? Should you just go as E.S. Stone? And I said, no, because I'm going to show up in the interview
that's right.
as Ebony. I'm going to be a black
That's right.
woman. Like, and so if you don't want me, I don't want to be there. But to your point, especially, so I know the number that everybody is familiar with right now is 300,000 black women, but I was just working with some individuals, and I believe the last number published was that 600,000 black women have been displaced in the
Mhm.
workforce, and I don't know all 600,000 of them, but I know
Right.
a good sampling of them. And I know that these women, like I said earlier about you, these some bad girls, right? They
Mhm.
have the degrees, they have the experience, they have the awards, they have all of the things, but they can't find jobs, which is probably because, like you said, of this weaponized neutrality. And I don't even think resumes aren't even getting to the decision makers.
No, they're not.
They're
They're
just
being
being
weeded out.
they're being weeded out, and these women can't figure out how to get it back into the game, right? And it's crazy. It's a crazy thought. I don't even know how we got here, but it's a crazy
Yeah.
thought. I know
It
you
is a
and I
very
have had
crazy
an
thought.
extensive conversation off camera about
Yeah.
this, right? And
Yes.
I have literally reviewed resumes for people. People have reviewed my resume. Like, I know I could name probably 10 black women I know right now who are highly qualified, highly competent, and simply cannot find a job. It is,
As can I.
you said
Mhm.
what?
As can I. I
What?
can name 10 to 15 black women who are superlative
Yeah.
and cannot, and it appears that they're locked out of the job market,
Yes,
right?
absolutely it does. Yeah, it does. So
So
before we go down this path, because I
right.
know it get into your research, it'll get into what's coming in the future. Tell me what you did after as a 6-year old walking home with your mother who cried all the way. I can't even imagine. After that point, how did that show up throughout school, throughout early childhood, K-12, college, and all of that, and then in your career?
Yeah, I think it started me on the path to being a systems thinker, right?
Hmm.
So I naturally gravitate towards trying to see the whole system from start to
Okay.
finish versus the focusing on the part that my job is supposed to cover.
Okay.
That's been good and that's been bad. Um, but it made me, of course, studious, right? So education was always big in our house, but that's where the lesson became you have to be twice as good.
To
That's
get
where that
this far.
lesson to
Mm-hmm.
get half. That's where that lesson was born there. And so the only thing that I could do at that point was be excellent in school.
Mm.
When I got out of school and actually started working, then it was about being excellent at work. And excellent for Black women often means overperformance.
Absolutely.
You're outperforming everybody. You're everywhere doing all the things at the same time with excellence. And while you're doing that, you're also taking care of people, right?
Yeah.
You're making sure everyone's emotional space is good. You're making sure the team works, right? It's all of this invisible labor that we
Mhm.
learn how to do because our ancestors passed down to us how to other mother. And
Oh,
so we take that into work,
yes, we
right?
do.
And it matches the bias that people already have about Black women. They're strong, they're capable, they'll take care of it, they'll take
Mhm.
care of us, they'll take care of it. And that becomes the invisible labor, right?
Yeah.
Um, And so I grew up professionally with that mantra. Like, I'm going to be the best. I'm going to do this the best. But I also had that systems thinking, right? So it's thinking through the entire process and not just a small piece. Well, how does this connect to that? And then how do we measure that it's working, right? And so when I got into government, I learned a lot about how to cheat.
Mm. How to
Right?
cheat? What was the last
How
thing
to
you
cheat
said?
the measurements.
Okay.
How do you cheat the metrics? How do you skirt around them? How do you word them in such a way that you will meet them without doing any work? And that's not all government. That's just an instance that I've run into, right?
Yeah.
And I happen at that point to be the director of a very large college access funding program in a major city,
Okay.
and we use those measurements. We were asked how to how many days that that it would take us to process an application.
Okay. How many days it'll take to process an
That's not what
application?
they're thinking. And so the thinking was, the moment we touched the application, we made a decision on it. And so therefore, we have processed it. But in reality, you would do that anyway because all the applications were incomplete when they came in. So this is
Okay.
very government, right? You put in the application, we make a decision that we need more information on it. And so we count that decision as a metric. We've met the metric when we, because in actuality, we left kids spinning and spinning and spinning until June.
Mm.
And they didn't know whether they had gotten any money until August.
Oh
And
my.
that's not healthy, right? Low
Right.
first generation under-resourced kids need to know early that they have the money to go to college.
Yes.
And so here we are as a government agency doing a serious disservice.
Wow.
And so
Wow.
that's some of what I encountered. And so my whole focus is always the whole system has to work. However,
Yes.
what I learned is that I became the system in many of those places. And that's what we have to look out for.
So
Don't become the system.
so expand on that. When you say you became the system, what does that mean? This portion of today's show is brought to you by Her Balance Vaginal Probiotic Gummies by Black Girl Vitamins. Many women experience shifts in pH, freshness, and balance due to stress, diet, hormones, and lifestyle changes. Black Girl Vitamins aims to fix that with the launch of their new Her Balance Vaginal Probiotic Gummies. This crayon pineapple flavored blend of probiotics and prebiotics sets Her Balance gummies apart from many vaginal probiotic gummies on the market. It has been proven to support beneficial bacteria, promote microbiome balance, maintain healthy pH, enhance daily freshness, and support urinary health. Hey, it's candy for your kitty, but actually, it's healthy. Her balance supports everyday feminine comfort when things just feel off and supports urinary wellness as a part of a complete daily routine. Try Her Balance for 20% off your first order now through June 30th, 2026 with discount code Dr. Ebony.
That means I became the person that was identifying the problems, fixing the problems, looking for long-term solutions to the problems, and mitigating the risk all at the same time, all by myself, even though there was a team of 20 of us,
That
to
happens
the
often
point
too.
where the system won't work without you. And as a Black woman, when you encounter in your career that something won't work without you, that's because you are the system. You're not leading it.
Mm. I love that. I love that. I um I had a conversation with someone and I said, listen, I can't, this probably isn't the space for me to help because I can't be micromanaging people at this level. Like these are not uh, brand new professionals, right? You know your job, do your job. I can't do that. I can't live in that space, but I have, and it's a lot. But I never thought about it as me being the system, but that's exactly what you are when you are doing all the things and making sure all of the boxes are checked. And the other thing that you are doing is allowing others to get off scot free. You're doing 12
Absolutely.
jobs and you getting one
Yep.
paycheck and 11
Yep.
people getting the rest of your money because they ain't doing
That's
nothing.
right. That's right. And that's when you know. So you have a couple of mismatches there, right? Because certainly we don't all go to work and try to make ourselves the system. We may do it unconsciously because we're bringing our excellence to a place where the authority is unmatched. It is
Yeah.
a mismatch between what they will allow you to do and what they will allow you to lead. That's two different things.
Yeah. Yes.
And so often to prove ourselves, we we make everything excellent, and by default we become the system.
Yes. And the other thing that we do is that we've been told, like you said, you got to work twice as hard to get half as far. And the reality is, it's more to the game than just working hard. Um,
Absolutely.
and we're not taught that. We have to learn that. I remember saying to my husband, he would say early on in my career, "Babe, you got to get in there. You got to play these politics." And I was like, "I ain't got time for that. I'm gonna put my head down
Mhm.
and I'm gonna work hard." And it did, I did well in my professional career, but I think I could have done well faster. I think I could have done some other things. All of that, had I realized earlier, had I listened to my husband, first of all, he loves to say, "Just do what I tell you to do." He's always joking, right? But had I listened to him sooner, or come to the realization for myself that there's more to it than just working hard. But as Black women, we got to have that part down, right? But we also we've got to learn. We got to learn either to play that game or create our own, right? One of the others, one of the other. So
That's right.
I want
That's
to.
right.
Uh, typically, toward the beginning of a conversation, I will tell the audience how we met. I purposely didn't do that because I think it's important, maybe like right here in this conversation, that the audience finds out how we met. So I've been talking a lot about community and support and celebration of one another as Black women.
Mhm.
And so I honestly can't even remember who it was. You
Mhm.
might remember who it was. Someone reached out to me and said, "Hey, I know someone working on their dissertation. You might be of assistance." And I was like, "Yep, whoever it is, no problem." And so Reva and I met actually online as she was working on her dissertation. Because I just think it's important that we support each other. I didn't know who Reva was, where Reva was. I was amazed when I found out where she was in school and what she was doing with her dissertation. Blew my mind, right? But I just think that we have to, with these targets on our backs, we've got to help each other. We know that when we come together, there's nothing that we can't do. So I think that's important. So that's how we met. We met online. We've never met in person, although at some point we will, because I've told her we got some work to do together.
We
But so from your dissertation, tell us a little bit about your dissertation, that journey, maybe what is different about it for you than what some people experience, and then how the concept of appropriated value kind of came to be. And then let's talk a little bit about that.
Okay. So I got my doctoral degree at a PWI, and it was probably the WIest place I've ever.
I love that. The WIest place.
But in that, I was Ebony, I was just really blessed to have the committee that I had.
Mhm.
And I had the blackest experience I've ever had at this WIS institution.
Wow.
Um, and I was bracing myself for the horror stories that you hear our sisters talk about as they're moving towards the ultimate excellence. I did not experience that at all. And then when I came up with my dissertation, um, which talked about Black women getting MBAs and then moving out into the market, how the market treated that, knowing that there was this gigantic debt to pay. I was expecting someone to say, no, 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 you don't want to touch that. I was given green lights all the way.
Mm.
And it was an honor to experience reaching out to people. I think it was someone mutual we both know, and to have you accept, because I read your, of course I read your LinkedIn and was just in awe of you.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
And you talk about bad, badassery, right? Like your resume was all about that. And so to have you accept the invitation was like a dream come true. I got the inspiration when I worked for a small regional college,
Okay.
again on the East Coast, and I was over the graduate business program, which is the MBA.
Okay.
And what I wondered was, have these women taken out these loans at max to get this degree from a local regional, local institution? How does that work in the market when they have to pay this money back? And that's where the question grew, right? So we know that you take on, the debt is imminent,
Yeah.
right? But the opportunities are elusive.
Yes.
And that's when I started studying that, and really peeling it apart.
Yeah. It's interesting, the similarities in our dissertations. And I say similarities from the perspective of you're studying Black women, and so what comes up is our lived experience. There's no way to skirt around it. And as Black women, you say Black women have, with MBAs, you expect a certain experience. Well, our lived experience is very different. I talked about mentorship and got into some of the things that people don't understand about our experience, right? People might
Mm-hmm.
ask, why are you taking the loans out? Well, where am I going to get the money from? My income is too high for grants, but I don't have the generational wealth that my peers have. My parents don't have a trust fund somewhere for me or this nest egg that I can grab. And so I'm trying to compete in this competition that I started way far back, right? And then also inside of that lived experience, I'm dealing with other things. Like, so even if our paychecks are even, oftentimes our experiences and what that money has to go to are not even. And if we don't do certain things, we're seen a certain way in our community. I don't know even why this is coming to mind because I couldn't tell you nothing about this girl I'm about to mention. I just saw a post and happened to read an article. Uh, Glorilla
Yes.
is a rapper. I know nothing about her,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Except I did see some snippets of her on a podcast. I know that she is either one of 10 or she has 10 siblings or something like that. And right now there is kind of something circulating around like she's not helping her mom, she's not helping all her siblings, blah, blah, blah. Well, as Black women, oftentimes that's what we're dealing with. While our peers, ain't
Mm-hmm.
nobody asking our peers why they're not taking care of their siblings. Ain't nobody asking our peers why they're not the savior of the family, right? So yeah, I'm taking out loans because I'm probably spending my money doing some other stuff that my peers don't have to do. And I don't have I don't have the money sitting somewhere that my peers had when they started. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. That
Yeah.
it just
And
it
and
is. So,
and I'm so glad you bring that up because that's the right. And also we have a market that's pay to play for us,
yes.
right? Because we have to overprove, which means we're over credentialed in many instances. And yes, we had to turn to loans to get the credentials to play in a market that's set up to underpay us, to contain our excellence, and to extract maximum value.
Yeah.
Right. So we take on all of the risks, right? And the rewards, sometimes they're good, sometimes they're not
Right.
great, right? Ourselves on this hamster wheel.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what I was very inspired by the fact that as I was doing my research, there are so many of us that are attaining this level, that are doing their research on us. And that was the
Yes.
reason why I didn't pick a quantitative topic, because I could have went into, how much does the debt impact future wealth, or how, these very quantitative, but I feel like our voices are not out there enough, and we are
Mm-hmm.
not studied enough in the right way. And so I went for a phenomenological study because
Yeah.
I wanted to amplify the voices. And I tell you that when I tell you I started out writing a story about victimization, and it turned into the counter narrative, it blew my mind. So I ended up writing a counter narrative story that I never set out to write because I thought I knew what the end was going to result in. But honey, let me tell you, these sisters that I talked to was just blowing my mind constantly. And I
Yeah.
am forever grateful to them for being as
Yeah.
vulnerable as they were. Just grateful.
I love that. So you started out thinking I write a story of victims, and you ended up writing a story about heroism, which is amazing.
Right.
I want to peel the layers back if we can on some of the work. So look, one of the questions I always get, and I don't know how you feel, this is what I tell people. I always get like, oh, I want to read your dissertation. I'm like, you don't want to read my dissertation. You don't want to read the dissertation. You
No.
might want to read what comes after it, maybe, but you don't want to read the dissertation because the dissertation has to be done in a very specific, methodic way. And it's not, I think, if you've not done this work, you're not familiar with this work, people think they're just going to pick up a book and read it. And you're not,
Right.
right?
No.
So I want to peel back the layers of what may be in your dissertation, right? And kind of tell the story, talk a little bit more about appropriated value. So I'm going to read your definition. And then I wonder if maybe you can, if you can share maybe some of the stories that you heard around the
Mhm.
concept of appropriated value. Appropriated value describes the experience of being deeply relied on for competence, care, and results while having authority, recognition, or advancement constrained. Right. I think we've talked about that, but I'm wondering if you can share some stories that you heard that maybe inspired you in that space as you were doing your research. Before we continue, if you've ever felt the pressure to perform, produce, and prove while carrying everything else, I wrote The Power of the Pause for you. It's a practical guide to leading with clarity instead of burnout, and it's available now, along with corner office apparel designed for women who mean business. Check the show notes for your link so you can get your copy or you can get your t-shirt. Oh, and if your organization is looking for a host, facilitator, or speaker who understands leadership and lived experience, you can book me directly at drebonystone.com. All right, let's get back to the conversation.
Yes, there were several, but one that jumps out at me always immediately was the story of one of the participants who worked at a nonprofit higher education institution, and she applied for like her boss's position. So her boss had left, and she applied for that position. She was weeded out in the first round. And then after the selection process fell apart and they didn't surface a candidate, she was then approached to step in and operate inside that job for a year and a half until they launched the search again. And one of the reasons they gave her was she didn't have a doctorate. Well, at this particular institution, types of institutions, you don't really need a doctorate to work in. They gave her a small stipend, but not the salary that matched the increase in work responsibility. Now, the reason why they probably gave this person, this sister, this opportunity is because she was already highly functioning at the level below.
Right.
So they flat out told her that she was not have been operating in that space for at this point 18 months. So she's been doing the job and probably 9 times out of 10 thing else, but didn't get the job. So for me, that puts a highlighter or a pin in what appropriated value is. So the system extracts excellence and all of these other things from a person, a Black woman, but the authority is mismatched. So they don't get the authority, they don't get the resources that should be a reciprocal. I work hard, I get authority, I get money, I get advancement opportunities. No, the system conspires to keep you there because you are the system. So you can't move. You're so excellent at your job that we really don't want you to move. Because quite honestly, the system will fall apart if you do move because you've become it. But I was so blown away, and she took it with grace, and she said, "What's for me is for me," and she let it just rest in her soul. And so I'm like, okay, well, she's prepared for a job that hasn't come to her yet, but she's all prepared and ready now. So all we need is the opportunity. But to have that happen, and I know that has happened to many of us. You know, we're asked to step in, we're asked to pick up the slack, we're asked to stretch, and then we're a team player. right? Doesn't show up in the paycheck, doesn't show up in promotion, doesn't show up in authority. And authority is really important, right? The other thing that was critically missing from this story is that she had no advocates. Obviously.
Yes.
She had no one advocating for tables that she was not invited to because she was the agenda, right? Anytime you're not invited for a seat at the table, you're on the agenda.
Yes.
And so it was, it was just stories like that. And they came again and again, right? In the form of people not believing that someone could pull something off, and they did with excellence. Just people confining these sisters into these smaller and smaller spaces, but the value is continually extracted. And so we read this, I heard these stories over and over again, but what I wasn't expecting was the response that these women had to these situations that they were in. And I think you find this interesting. Out of the women that participated, 80% of them had MBAs. All of them had MBAs, but 80% went on to doctoral degrees on top of the debt.
They continue to amass
So
the
that,
debt.
because they continue to believe that either, well, most of them were feeling that pull back to community. Believe it or not, 80% of the women that went on to get the doctoral degree community, they want to guide people so that people are not making the same mistakes, believing that hard work and keeping your head down is going to get you where you're trying to go.
Yes.
And so the most striking part about the dissertation is that appreciation for whose shoulders they stood on and were compelled to give back to their community. Most of them wanted to do it through teaching. Others started their own businesses, became entrepreneurs. And so, in other words, turning that what was meant to hold us down, they turned it into a springboard to become even greater, whether inside the market or outside the market. And most of the time, it was outside.
Yeah, that's just who we are. That's a part of that lived experience. So it's a whole thing. I got a whole thing going in my head, Dr. Rehva, about you and I, and one of the things that you said was that there clearly was nobody at the table advocating for them, right? And
Right.
as you know, my dissertation was on the impact that mentorship has on women in senior leadership positions. So yeah, we need to chat after this. I see some connections. But tell me, so because I see mentorship, my dissertation was not on sponsorship, but mentorship, sponsorship, things of that nature as being I hate to use the word, but weapons. I can't think of another word right now. Weapons that we can use against our value being appropriated, or at least a part of the arsenal, right? What other things can we do as Black women to avoid this appropriated value?
Yes, great question. I would take the weapons and turn them into tools.
Tools. There you go.
Um,
Yes. I was feeling a
although
little feisty
most
today.
of the time they're weapons.
Yes.
Most of the time they're weapons. But so first of all, it's knowing your worth. It's knowing your worth, and and um, being able to comfortably set boundaries, because you become the system because the boundaries get eroded, or you come in with none because you're determined to just do whatever it takes. And when you do
Yes.
whatever it takes, there's no boundaries there,
Right.
right? And that sets you up to become the system.
Yeah.
So the mentorship, the sponsorship, you can't say enough about, right? The advocacy that's needed on your behalf. So what does that say? It says that your social network inside any organization that you're in, it has to be on point. You have to pay as much attention to who you're talking to and who can carry your story and who will advocate for you, right? Because we're already coming in with an impeccable brand.
Yes.
Most of the women, no one, I have not met one woman whose brand was not impeccable, because that's how you got the job, right? You
Yep.
were clearly overqualified, right? So we're knocking meritocracy all in the head and off the table, because it has nothing to do with that. It's a myth. But you come in and you start building those political, those networks inside the organization. You have to target folks who you know can advocate for you, and not necessarily be your mentor. Your mentor may be someone else. Your advocate may be someone else. If you're lucky, they're the same person, but they may not be.
Right.
And talk. When you come in, just because you have a title does not mean you have the authority that you think the title has. And so if there's someone constantly making decisions, if your boss is constantly making decisions over you, you have to have a talk. And you can't put it in like, why you undermining me, that because they can't hear that from us, right? So we have to come in with the business case for it. It opens us to risk. It opens us to inefficiency. It would be more effective to keep the title and the authority together, right?
Yes.
So it's those kinds of things that we have to look out for. It's nothing about getting more credentialed. It is nothing about working harder. But it is about building your community at work.
Yes.
And because it's really important, especially when you're not in those rooms and you are being discussed.
Yeah, because you are. I love that you said if you're not at the table, you're on the agenda. Oh, you are on the agenda. You are on the agenda. And if it's not a formal meeting, no, there is a conversation being had before the meeting, or the meeting after the meeting.
Absolutely.
Or at the bar during drinks. You are being discussed.
Yep. Yes. And you're being discussed as a good idea. You're a good idea to bridge the gap, to fill the hole, to push the team forward. Yeah, you're brilliant. You're the good idea. Always remember that you're the good idea, but at what cost to you? See, that's the other half of the conversation that no one talks about. No one's talking about putting Ebony in this interim space and matching her salary, with the interim, what that position holds.
So here's my issue. I have just a complete issue anyway with interim positions. With the exception of individuals who have said, like, hey, I don't really want to do this. I can, and I'll step in for you in the interim until you find somebody. That's fine. But when you place me in the position interimly, knowing that I want to do the job, you allow me to do it, a year, 2 years. I'm clearly doing a good job. And then you create some minor issue as to why I can't have the position. I just don't even, that thought process blows my mind every time I hear it over and over again. Like, what makes someone think that is okay? It blows my mind. Now, there are people, the organization that I came from needed someone to step into a particular role, and someone had done it before, and he came back, but he was very clear from the very beginning, like, and there was no one internally that wanted that I even wanted the position, right? And he was like, hey, I'm here, but I'm only here while this search happens, right? And he was open and clear about it. Okay, fine, right? That's fine, because there's nobody internally that wants to slide into that space. You did the job before. Come on back until we find somebody. But other than that, this whole thought of interim just blows my mind. Like, no, just hire me. The story you just told of the woman being weeded out at the very first stage, and then you choose me to be interim. Listen, she has a heart of gold. Bless her heart. She clearly is a God-fearing woman, because I don't know that I could have been that person. I just really don't. I don't know. So I went off on a little bit of a tangent, but tell me a little bit about what's next for you. Tell our listeners what's next for you, what's coming up for you, what they can expect from Dr. Rehva Jones.
Ebony, can you just run that last part back?
Yeah. Tell our listeners and viewers what they can expect from Dr. Rehva Jones in the future. Where will they see you? What's coming up next for you?
I'm in that very giddy place where you finish your dissertation and you feel like you can pump out peer review articles in a month. So I'm looking forward to writing a couple of more articles. I'm looking forward to diving deeper into research. I do intend to write a book.
Nice.
I do intend to do that. Now, whether I do it alone or I do it with company, I relish the thought of working with some of my favorite people to get it done.
Nice.
But I think that it's really important, because there are not many places where our value is being affirmed, and
Mm-hmm.
so we step into work in a very different space, right, where we feel we have to prove, for whatever reason or another, and not realize what's happening. Like, and and I personally think AI is going to make it worse, right? Because then you'll be able to manage a digital workforce, which means you're managing yourself and running 10 or 12 AI agents, right? And so there's a whole thing I have about that. But I do expect to um, wade deeper into the research and talk to other people who are talking about the same thing, and trying to find ways to just get it out there and encourage and uplift while I'm doing it.
Yes, yes, I love that. And I love that you are talking about what AI, the negative side of AI. I think AI has its place, but it is interesting. Dr. Reva, I would just tell you, I sit and I watch sometimes on social media, different places. These people are uh, they're pumping out books. Right? Like you just said, you're in this place where you feel like, hey, I could write this peer review article in a month, right? You got people pumping out whole books. They putting out 10 books a year, and I'm like, no, that you're not. You AI is writing these books. This in when you read them, you can tell, right? There now, I'm sure there are an individual or two who that's what they do for a living,
Right.
and they can put out several books a year, and that's cool. But we're living in a place where reality is going to be, you're going to have to determine what's real and what's not, you know? So I appreciate you for bringing that to light. I appreciate you for, I'm
Absolutely.
sorry. Okay. Yeah, I think we had a little delay there. I appreciate you for creating language that we can put around our experience, right? Because that's what it is. Um, Most of us have experienced it and just don't know what to call it, you know? And so I appreciate you for creating the language that we can utilize, that represents our experience many times. Um, so, what I want to do is ask you the question that I ask all my guests, before we wrap up. And that is just a fun question, but your story it has so much depth. I really want to hear this answer. If someone comes to you and they say, Dr. Reva, listen, from the moment you were in that government office with your mom at 6 years old until today, we need to tell that story. We want to tell that story. We want to make a movie of your life. What would that movie be called? And who would play you? Mhm.
Oh my goodness, I don't even know what happened.
That's okay. No problem. Um, so I'll just pick up from where I left off with
Sure.
the last question. Okay.
Mhm.
So I would just like to ask you one final question, and that is if someone approaches you and says, Dr. Reba, we are so amazed with your story. From the time you walked into that office at 6 years old with your mom into that government office until now, you becoming Dr. Rehva Jones, we think your story needs to be told. And we want to make a movie of your life. What would they call that movie and who would play Dr. Rehva Jones?
Oh wow. Okay, let me see. I think the title of the movie would be "The System Knows Your Name, but God Knows Your Heart." And
Oh, that was
I would
good.
want I would want Angela Bassett to play me,
Yes.
of course.
Yes. Yes. Angela Bassett is a bad girl. She's a bad
Yes, she
girl.
is. Yes, she is.
Yes.
It could be Angela Bassett, it could be Regina King, it could be any one of our queens that
Yes.
we hold in such dear esteem. Yes.
Yes. I
But my
love
first
Regina
pick would
King.
be Dr. Bassett.
Yes. 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 The system knows your name, but God knows your heart. That's amazing. All right, listen, guys. I have truly enjoyed, as I am sure you have, the conversation with Dr. Rehva Jones. I thank her for her work that she is doing in this space. And I just would like to say this: if you don't take anything else away from this conversation, make sure you take away the language that Dr. Jones has created for us to describe our experience, appropriated value. Sit with that for a moment, understand what that means, and then learn how to counteract it when you're experiencing it. All right.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Thank
It's
you
just
for this lesson, Dr. Stone. I so appreciate you and the work that you're doing. Please don't get tired in doing well for us in the community. Thank you
I
so much.
appreciate that. Thank you. All right, guys, that's it for today. And so we'll see you in a couple weeks. And you know what to do in the meantime. Keep spreading that Black girl magic on everything you do. We'll see you in a couple weeks. Bye, guys. Thank you for spending time with me today. If this episode spoke to you, share it with another Black woman who needs this reminder. And don't forget to subscribe. You'll find links to my book, apparel, and speaking information in the show notes. Until next time, lead with intention and give yourself permission to pause. And you know what else? Keep spreading that Black girl magic on everything you do.